Welcome to another Endgame recap podcast about video games. It is 4/25/2025, and I guess that means it's Friday because we release it on Friday. I promised a more energetic podcast this week, and you're getting it. I went to the gym, feel jacked up, bro. And going to see Kim Gordon tonight of Sonic Youth. I think she's 70, 71 years old, and she's still rocking. She put out one of my favorite albums of last year. Go check it out. Listen to the song Bye Bye. She also has a song where she takes the piss out of men. She's just like, I'm a man. I drive a truck. Yeah. It's kind of like 2024's version of Sports by Viagra Boys, if you get that reference. So yeah, you can clearly tell I've had my Yorkshire black tea, feeling good about life, despite everything going on in the world, you know? We're going to talk about some of that too, as it relates to video games, and about how right I am about stuff, and about how people who write at Fast Company should listen to this podcast and feel informed. You know what? This is just going to be pat myself on the back time. I can't even say that with a straight face. I'm so excited, everybody. This has been a tremendous couple of weeks for games. I'm so excited to play so many new games and to talk about them. I'm having a whole lot of fun creating content, putting on my channels. I put out a video yesterday talking about community management and misconceptions about it. That was fun. I got a lot of interest around that, so I think I'm going to post more about that. I've been playing a lot of games to create content for them and post like little impressions and reviews. I got one for Oblivion coming up. I created it, I played it a bunch, and then I put the narrative together, the video, and then I realized I didn't have enough impactful gameplay footage to match what I was saying. So that's coming along. That's going to be a fun one. Yeah, Oblivion remaster came out this week. The worst kept secret since Switch 2. And it's great. It's fun. I'm playing it. My wife's playing it. I'm still playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. I think I have like 200 hours on that. I just love it. I want to max out everyone's jobs, do everything possible. It's just the experience I keep going to. God, I'm playing just so many. I got this retro tower defense game in my queue called Gnomes. And I got this really interesting black and white game called Repose. Fatal Fury City of the Wolves came out, the sequel to Mark of the Wolves. I'm not going to go into new releases and stuff this week because honestly, I forgot to look into all that before this podcast. Rogue Loops came out a couple weeks ago. I got to play that for it. I haven't played Dota in a while, which is absolutely insane. There's so many good games. Anyway, how are you doing? You doing good? You know what I was thinking about at the gym? This is a deep concept. Let's have a little kumbaya. Let's slow it down really quick before we get into a lot of the news. Everybody, I want to ask you, where are you when you feel like you are at your most truest self? You know, I was watching the Pee-wee documentary trailer, and it's got me thinking a lot. The scariest thing, I think, well, not scariest, but you know what I mean, would be for people who don't know me, I think everyone can relate to this, to talk about you as if they do know you in some kind of finality way, in like a documentary. And I gotta really hand it to Pee-wee for recognizing this and wanting to tell the story himself. And you know, there's always gonna be, you are biased to yourself, but I was thinking today at the gym, this is where I really feel like I'm a version of me is at my truest self. There's also a true version of me that I warned my wife about. She wanted to play a tower defense game with me, and I said, you don't want to bring out that demon. I've been number one in the world for a few tower defense games, and she doesn't want that. But turns out she's just like that. And we related a lot through the obsessive compulsive min-maxing of a tower defense game. And that was a lot of fun. Let's see. Where else? Definitely at the gym is where I feel a lot like myself. When I'm on here, I think this is a version. Fighting games, certainly, and playing open world games like Red Dead. Or just being at a concert with my wife. You know, like there's peak us and peak happiness and excitement. I think also with my niece and nephews, that's around the holidays, that's peak it. And being around family, there was a time, or there have been times when I go back home and I reconvene with a motley assortment of family and friends. And that's always, peak it. And just sitting on the porch talking to my mom or my dad or both, or with my wife there too, or my brother, just family, like what are those peak moments? And then I was thinking, like, why don't we do that more often? Fuck the rest. To kind of end this conversation and bring it back to video games, my wife and I were talking about video game behaviors and the things that we used to do and the things that we do in games and the games we play. And we were discussing what we won't do anymore. And that is kind of like cutting down every bush or picking up every piece of loot in a game. And I think there was a time when those behaviors were much more, I guess, normalized, because there were maybe less games out and we just wanted to spend time together or, experience games, if you will, in that way. And I don't do that anymore. I'm almost 40 years old. And I know certain people do, and that's okay for you. Do whatever you want. Experience this wonderful industry in whatever way you want. But it's just not for us anymore. And it was kind of fun to relate to my partner on that and to just talk about our relationship to games. Always a fun thing to do. Think about your relationship to media, people. Just give it some thought. Okay, enough being the bummer man, stoner philosophy dude. Let's talk about how right Kyle is. Okay, let's do it. I love that. Let's get into news. Let's clap. This first one says, here, let me click on it and read the full headline. How tariffs could change the way Americans buy video games. Digital games may avoid price hikes, but new tariffs could still shift consumer spending toward free-to-play and cheaper options. Oh, look at that. How do the tariffs affect this industry and consumer behavior? Man, if there was only a video game podcast that really dug into this and talked more about it and wished other people would. Man, that feels like it was like 2 weeks ago, doesn't it? All right. So this goes on and talks about a lot of the things I discussed, how tariffs will uniquely affect individual companies like Sony and Nintendo. But it also talks about people may not necessarily retreat, but go to the known quantity of games they've been playing for a long time, like League of Legends, Grand Theft Auto, Roblox, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Dota, that type of thing. And instead of spending $60 on a boxed copy of a game or, something at that price point, they might choose to spend $20 in a digital game. So this is going to be a really interesting aspect of the business that I'd highlight, and it'll be really interesting to see if the consumer behavior does change, and also if publishers and developers are going to react in any sort of way to bolster that, to draw those users in or keep them in a certain way, or really feel like that they need to stay. So yeah, a $20 bundle for a digital game might be good. Around offering certain kinds of alternatives, seeing if they can snipe releases, so to speak, and draw the attention away. And one thing it says, I like this. However, it's important to note that economic factors are shifting so rapidly that it is difficult to make any solid predictions of the future to come. Right now, the uncertainties are off the charts, says the person they talk about in this article. People will still love video games, and they'll still play them. But how they play them and how they spend on them, that might certainly change. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Things are mightily uncertain there, Donald. If you know what I mean. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Okay, moving along to the next article. So, Elder Scrolls Oblivion came out. It's like a 20-plus year remaster of a game that came before. I think it's the third best Elder Scrolls game of the last three. I'd place Morrowind at number one, as would a lot of people. Not just because I played that first, and it was during a more impressionable time period, but because of the vibes, bro, that were in the game. And I liked how flexible the spell crafting and the jewel crafting was. You could really break the game with that. And they went with it and actually showed you how much you could break the game. Scroll of Vicarian Flight, anyone? Boots of Blinding Speed, wink wink. So that came out, and Bethesda gave people developing Sky Oblivion, which is a mod for Skyrim, to remake Oblivion in that engine. They gave them all free copies of this remaster, of the Oblivion remaster. So that's good. And they said that we're not going to take it down. Very cool of them. This game peaked Oblivion Remaster just on Steam with something like 180,000 concurrent players. A lot of people were saying that there were a lot of problems downloading the game on Game Pass because there were so many people that first day. If you think about Microsoft, one of their bread and butter things is networking. So very cool to see the excitement around this. I'm playing it. I can't wait to put a video out. I'm having fun editing it. Watch this space. So the Until Dawn movie came out. If you don't know Until Dawn, it's a video game series, a kind of choose your own adventure horror series. It's getting mixed reviews apparently. The movie adaptation, if you will. But I try to stay positive on this podcast, and really only bolster myself and make myself look good. Clearly, so I get another job in the gaming industry. But I want to highlight this not so positive review for Until Dawn because I really got to appreciate the headline. So as we all know, video games adaptations to movies don't have a great reputation. Recent years, Super Mario Brothers, Sonic, and most recently Minecraft have certainly generated a lot of money and changed that idea. There's still some of that OG ick on video game adaptations, and this headline certainly acknowledges it. So sorry for burying the lead here, but the article says Until Dawn review, extremely loose video game adaptation, doesn't suck too much. It calls it a shallow, confusing, but somewhat entertaining popcorn spiller. I get it, spilling the popcorn because you're scared, but I like that it just went straight away and said doesn't suck too much. That's over at The Wrap. Well done, people there, for allowing that. In other news, the SNK World Championship 2025 announced with record-breaking $2.5 million prize pool for Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. This is an article at Event Hubs. And it says the grand total amount of prizes for City of the Wolves will eclipse 2.5 million USD for its first competitive season. A staggering 1.5 million of that will go to the grand champion crowned at the end of this year. This is now the single largest prize and prize pool we've ever seen for a fighting game, beating out the Capcom Pro Tour's $2 million prize pool and continued $1 million prize to the Capcom Cup winner for Street Fighter 6. It's a massive step up from the SWC 2024, where the winner walked away from the King of Fighters 15 with just over $16,000 and a $41,000 prize pool. This is happening. A lot of people are saying because they had that, I think SNK was acquired by Saudis, and they've certainly injected a lot of money into this game. They got a famous DJ, I can't remember his name. Clearly, I am not informed in that genre, but he's a playable character in the game, kind of like a a drunken boxing style of play, except it's him dancing in different ways. It's bizarre. I see people playing online when I'm playing it using him and just kind of trolling. And then there's Ronaldo as well in the game, soccer player or football player, if you will. So, and people are like, oh yeah, that happened because Saudi money spent it on it. And there's a lot of mixed feelings about that injection of money. I just keep thinking about the two things. A massive prize pool for a game doesn't necessarily guarantee that game will become the biggest one, that a lot of people will buy that game just so they can get that prize pool. As someone who's done a lot of contests on social media in various ways for a long time, the size of the reward doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get... The ROI doesn't increase with the money, let's just say. The second thing I wanted to say is, you know that meme from Iron Man 1? It's the Jeff Bridges character pointing at the scientist, and he's like, Tony Stark built this in a lab. And he's talking, and they, in response to them not being able to build the reactor. Think of the gaming industry like that. You can throw millions, hundreds of millions of dollars at companies. Look at Concord. And you may not get a massive multi-billion-dollar success. Whereas games like Repo and Lethal Company are coming out, made by very small teams and making millions and having considerable influence in the gaming industry. So, you know, if you're one of those people that I see getting down about that, always remember that the creatives will find a way. Creatives will find a way. If you remember anything from today's podcast, remember that. Okay, this is a funny article I saw posted in various ways in different places. It says, GTA 6 trailer smashes record, but fans aren't happy. And it's so much knee-jerk clickbait. I clicked on it, yeah, because, you know, I have a service I have to do to you. So the whole news item, it's like most of these write-ups were 6 sentences long. And it's basically because the GTA 6 trailer has over 250 million views on YouTube. And people are just mad because it got there and the game's not out yet. And they just want more information. That's it. It's the whole thing. If you're mad that you don't have any more information about a new game, go find a hobby. Therapy or a significant other, an animal, just to do anything, really. It's a weird thing to be mad about. But if you're mad that you can't get your hands on this game coming up, I understand. So, grandma, comma, no, exclamation point. So, grandma, no, launches May 22nd. And I didn't know about this game until I was looking for news to talk about in this podcast. Comes out May 22nd, and this is what it says. Grandma No, a physics-based adventure game where players become a grandma and take on her day-to-day house chores in chaotic fashion, will launch for PC via Steam on May 22nd. Publisher Super Rare Originals and developer Wallride announced. It looks fun. The grandma looks sweet and just causing chaos. I love it. It looks like a Untitled Goose Game, but grandma. Who doesn't want that, right? Okay, moving on here. Horizon. Okay, this one I want to talk about a little bit. Give some preface to it. So for a long time, it's been, if you want to buy a racing game, like a serious racing game, do you buy an Xbox or do you buy a PS5? Because on Xbox, you have the Forza series, where you get the more arcadey-ish Forza Horizon, or you can get the Forza Motorsport series, which are, the track-based, serious simulator type stuff. Both very well reviewed, both some of the greatest racing games of all time. But for a long time, the super enthusiasts have been on PS5, and they said you have to get Gran Turismo, and which is really known for, their obsession with cars and physics and the art of racing and the beauty of cars type of thing. And now with Microsoft offering their titles, their first-party titles on the PlayStation, for the first time ever on PS5, gamers are going to have to make that choice. Do I buy Gran Turismo or do I buy Forza? Kind of. So Horizon 5 is coming to PS5. We don't know a date for Motorsport, I believe, yet. But this is interesting. If I was a part of, I can't remember the Sony studio or the Gran Turismo studio, but if I were them, I'd be a little worried right now, and I'd be talking to Sony, and I'd say, you're really going to allow this? Maybe Sony's putting pressure on Gran Turismo to step it up. I don't know. It's an interesting battle that we haven't seen yet. So again, as always, watch this space. Here's one that just is hot off the presses today. It says UK bans video game controller exports to Russia. And the article says, and this is just kind of paraphrasing a little bit here, the export of video game controllers from the UK to Russia has been banned as they can be repurposed to pilot drones used to launch attacks on Ukraine. It is part of a package of around 150 trade sanctions against Russia announced by the Foreign Office on Thursday. The European Union enforced a similar ban on video games and joysticks earlier this year. Gaming consoles will no longer be repurposed to kill in Ukraine, Foreign Office Minister Stephen Doty said. He added, Putin thought he could use British markets to boost his war effort, buying harmless goods and turning them into tools of war. But the UK is exposing and acting on this sinister trade. Today's actions clamp down on Russia's sneaky trading and deprives Putin of the goods he desperately needs to fight his barbaric war. I'm a little shocked that this wasn't done earlier. War is bad, obviously. I don't need to go into all that. But I really feel for the Russian gamers. So now it's going to be harder and harder to get controllers and other things over there. And I had first-hand experience of something like this when I was working at Gamer Sensei. When it was when it was purchased by Corsair. So because of the war in the Ukraine, Corsair as a business kind of severed ties with Russia very quickly. And I had to tell a lot of coaches, esports coaches for Gamer Sensei that were in Russia that we couldn't work with them anymore. And a lot of people took out their frustrations directly on me and Gamer Sensei, but I understand where they were coming from. It was a very difficult place for me to be in, and it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my choice, but yeah, it sucked. These things are terrible. I wish we didn't have all this war and these tariffs, and just sucks, man. It's just a real big bummer. Okay, segueing into a bit, I guess, fun place to be before we get into some of the bigger, higher concept articles at the end of this podcast. Look at that, 24 minutes in, we're making good time. This article at IG, I haven't read this article yet, so we're going to do it together. I just saw it at the last second before I picked this. Started recording. So it says, the 14 worst video game movie adaptations of all time. Is at IGN. And they list Super Mario Brothers, which is pretty bad, but, with surrealist eyes these days, Man, I can't believe they pulled that off. It just even got it made. Double Dragon, they noted, and that was absolutely terrible. Even if you took away the Double Dragon name, I don't know why it was even made, but I had a huge crush on Alyssa Milano in that movie and her style. The short blonde hair and everything. Huge crush. Huge crush. All right, I got to snap out of it. Okay. Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Terrible movie. I was embarrassed to be a fan of Mortal Kombat. Like, I was a big fan of the first movie, and then that one came out, and, like, I remember people who weren't gamers talking about it, and I couldn't. Wing Commander, 1999. I heard it was so bad that I've stayed away every year. Freddie Prinze Jr., Matthew Lillard was in it. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the game. I didn't play it. Didn't care. Whatever. House of the Dead, 2003. I heard that one is just god awful, but I heard it's fun in a B campy movie kind of way. Still haven't seen it. Alone in the Dark, 2005. Another Uwe Boll classic. Haven't seen that either. Christian Slater was in it. Tara Reid. Nope. Blood Rain. Nope. Uwe Boll again. Haven't seen that. Postal. Uwe Boll. Nope. Haven't seen that one. Max Payne. Nope. Didn't see that. Mark Wahlberg did it. It looked awful. I mean, if you play Max Payne now, it's cheesy. And every other line in the comic cutscenes, it's like, this is how he describes something. The hallway was dark, like a toilet bowl with the lights off. She had a gruff manner, like a blah, 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 blah. And everything is like a blah, 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 like a blah, blah, blah. It gets so old so fast. But it's so much fun. It's so pulpy. And if we didn't have the Max Payne games, we would have never gotten the incredible Punisher game that came out around that time. I don't think you can even buy that anywhere. Hyper violent. There's a scene in there where you're hearing like a funeral procession, and then you're Frank Castle, and you kick the coffin door open or whatever you cover, and you just kill everyone in the room. And it's jank. It's got all these like graphical ways of blowing body parts away, and you can shove faces against. You're at like a zoo, and you shove a guy's face against the lion cage, and it's just amazing. It's so bloody, and it gets it. Nick Fury's in it, and some other people. Go play it, everybody. Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, 2009. Did not see that either. Looked terrible. Silent Hill Revelation. Saw that. I liked it a lot. Both Silent Hill movies, I loved. They used certain aspects of the series that are narratively out of place, but the aesthetics and everything are just so much fun. The first Silent Hill, it's fantastic. Second one, not so much, but they're both fun. Hitman Agent 47 from 2015. Nope, didn't watch that one either. I heard it was okay. Monster Hunter 2020. Nope, didn't watch that one. And Borderlands the movie 2024. Nope. Didn't watch that one either. I'm really not that big of a fan of the games, and that one looked like hot garbage. And you know, I never really liked Eli Roth as a director. I just don't like his stuff. Sorry, Eli, because you're such a big fan of this. I'm sorry to let you down. Okay, this one. Okay, now we're gonna have a drink of tea really quick. I'll tell you, I asked someone from the UK one time what the best, hardest hitting black tea was, and then she's like, Yorkshire. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, Yorkshire. I'm like, you seem pretty certain. She's like, of course, that's the best. It'll put hair on your chest. And I said, I don't have any hair on my chest. And she's like, well, this will put hair on your chest. And I'm like, holy shit, okay. And I got some Yorkshire. I don't have any hair on my chest, but it is the hardest hitting tea that I've ever had. It's lovely, and don't need cocaine anymore. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not a cocaine guy. Who does cocaine in 2025 for real? You know, even if you do, like, I got to tell you, being in Los Angeles, I've heard of people getting like fentanyl in that stuff. Like, man, don't do any of that. Even if you're someone, a user, no judging here, but just be careful, everybody. I knew someone one time that they had one drug, I think it was cocaine or something, and someone had switched it with heroin, and yeah, it's not good. Not good to do any of that stuff. Be careful. You only get one body, everybody. One shot. Because opportunity... No. Kidding. So this is a very beautiful article at GameSpot. And I want to give everybody a lot of props over there for running something like this. This felt very personal. I'm just happy to be in an industry that highlights these articles that are so much more than the typical game review where it's like the graphics were like this and they go down the checklist as if you could review a game like that. We made a lot of mistakes in the gaming industry, and boiling game reviews down to a checklist of the graphics need to be this and the graphic and replayability needs to be this. That was stupid. That was a horrible way to equate value or to give an opinion on art. And so these articles are a step in the right direction. So props to everyone over there. Let me get into it. I'm just going to read the headline and a few choice paragraphs in there. This is by Jessica Cogswell. So props to you, Jessica. Way to go. It says, everything sucks, but video games help me process it. And the subheadline is, as much as the world needs games that make us feel secure and cozy, I believe we need games that encourage and empower us too. Beautiful, well said. And here are a couple choice paragraphs that I picked out. What I long for more than anything these days are tales of resistance, stories in which scrappy underdogs take on forces larger than themselves. They're seldom fearless. No sensible person is, video game character or not, but that fear doesn't hinder them from doing the ethical thing. To invoke a Mr. Rogers quote I've always found charming, I suppose that even when it comes to video games, I'm looking for the helpers. Another paragraph here says, stories, whether constructed by one person or a whole studio of people, contain our hopes, fears, dreams, experiences, and beliefs. They are the closest we can come to making the intangible tangible, to share our internal worlds with one another in hopes of establishing resonance. And though not all works are intended to inspire, all works can. And thus the act of creating is one that can be immensely powerful. In metaphor, I found a game that believes all of this as strongly as I do. Long after finishing the game, its hopefulness and reassurance continues to cloak me. And part of the reason it does is because I firmly believe it must cloak other people too. Last paragraph here that I'm going to note says, and though it might sound a bit obtuse, Souls-likes in particular have grown particularly comforting to me over the years. Most of the time, the stories and worlds they contain don't feel happy, safe, or gentle. But honestly, I prefer that they aren't. You can't overcome something if there's nothing to overcome. You can't feel assured in your strength or perseverance if they've never been tested. You can't appreciate light and beauty without fumbling through the dark and dire, and you can't appreciate being alive without acknowledging the finality of death. Beautiful. It reminds me of a song by Tom Waits called San Diego Serenade, where he says, I never saw the morning till I stayed up all night. I never saw the sunshine till you turned out the light. I never saw my hometown until I stayed away too long. I never heard the melody until I needed a song. I never saw the white line till I was leaving you behind. I never knew I needed you until I was caught up in a bind. I never spoke I love you till I cursed you in vain. I never felt my heartstrings until I nearly went insane. So yeah, Souls-likes certainly do that, and that's been a topic that people have talked about a long time, especially in regards to difficulty. A lot of people have requested over the years that there should be an easy difficulty for Souls-likes. And I've long said, no, I don't think so. And people have said, yes, there needs to be, because I have a physical disability and I want to play this game. And an easier difficulty would make that easier. And I do sympathize with those people with disabilities. Lord knows that I've talked about my wife's own disability on this podcast a lot. But I will say that Souls-likes do have an easy mode in them, in a way. It's unfortunately, for better and for worse, related to XP and farming. And if you want a Souls-like to be easier, you can just farm more XP and build yourself out to be a stronger character and do something like that. And there's certainly ways to play it. And so that in itself, that climb and that journey reaps its own rewards. Whether you finish it quickly without getting hit, or if you are one of those people who farms a lot and plays a shield build, for example, with high health. That's your journey. And that's kind of the beauty of video games and our relationship to play. And continuing on that idea of Souls-likes, I found this article that is related. It says, well-known role-playing game helps players cope with mental health challenges. And this is at techexplore.com. It's a long article, but let me read just a couple paragraphs for it, and you'll see the relationship to the previous article. It says, using an in-depth thematic analysis of player discussions on Reddit, researchers from Aalto University focused on personal narratives related to mental health and gameplay in the role-playing game Dark Souls. The study highlights the multifaceted ways players experience and relate to the challenging and often bleak fantasy action game. Players described how the game's structure had taught them acceptance of failures as an essential part of life's process. Doctoral researcher Jaakko Vakeva explains. Dark Souls, through its ruthless difficulty and powerful narrative themes, seemed to empower many players to confront their real-life struggles with perseverance and hope. The researchers hope the study will encourage others to further examine the potential positive impacts on gaming on mental health and inform game design that also serves players' real-world needs. Past studies have shown a clear need for more in-depth, game-specific research addressing the positive mental health benefits of entertainment games, Vakeva says in one of the people articles. When narrative, context, themes, and technical execution create a strong interplay, it can evoke an impactful game experience that can have positive effects for the player. While the study maintains that playing does not replace the need for professional help or therapy, it provides empirical evidence that thoughtful game design has a role in offering players meaningful activity and support amid depression or other mental health challenges. Beautiful, right? So, as I've said many times on this podcast, we don't know the extent that games can benefit us and the way that they can influence certain behaviors. And let's focus on the positive here. Let's build a better world by playing and developing more video games. It's all about that active play, socializing, and whatnot, right, everybody? It's all about community. We all belong to the beautiful video game community. Oh, man. So that's about all I have right now for this podcast. Well, all I have. It's almost 40 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it, everybody. Come next week. We'll try to do another high-octane, exciting podcast. Or if you like the low-key ones, let me know. We can do more of the late-night shindigs together. All right, everybody. I'm going to be playing so many games this weekend. I hope you're doing the same. I hope you get out, get some sunshine or not. I don't know. Just have a good weekend. Have a beer, or a J or a blend. All right, everybody. Talk to you later next week. Bye.